Hello and welcome to Hold Up, a movie podcast with your hosts, myself, Davan 6, and to my left
Chris
here,
Murphy.
oh, that's messing me up. I'm usually on the left. Chris World, and we have a guest with us tonight, Captain Dave
Yes,
Mater. How's
sir.
it going, Captain Dave?
I'm well. How are you guys tonight?
Yep.
We're doing
Oh, we're doing
fabulous.
well.
Looking forward
given
to
the
talking about these.
Given the dystopia we are in.
Yeah, gonna be talking about some dystopian times with you fellas.
Well.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah, you're
Well,
like, which
look,
theme do I want Dave?
we're-
Which theme do I want Dave to join us for? It was Dystopia. Interesting one. A future imperfect, even though
We're
I
getting
am a
ahead
Star
of
Trek
ourselves here.
fan. So, which is a utopia of presentation. But I digress.
Well, Captain Dave, we have a little segment on this show called Origin Stories. Since you haven't been here before, what's with you in movies?
I love movies. I'm kind of jealous you beat me to a movie podcast because I feel like this was always something I would maybe do one day. But glad to be doing it with you tonight. I don't know, like how much do I love film compared to anybody else? It's hard to quantify such a thing, but I would consider myself a big fan. It's a big part of my life, has been always, and continues to be. And I think that I got a whole new love of movies when I got married, because Jane, my wife, a huge Academy Award enthusiast, she was like, let's watch all the Oscar noms and this kind of stuff. And even though I don't have time for that all the time, I enjoy that, she's a huge movie fan too, and we share that. So, of course we share that as friends. So excited to get into it with you tonight, cousin Davan and Chris Murphy.
Yeah, this is gonna be a good time. I'm excited to have
Well,
a third
fellas,
party in this conversation.
Yes, I did watch your first two episodes. I guess I didn't watch all of them because I didn't know
Listeners.
you'd play the trailers, but
That's okay. First, we renewed our love of cinema and decided that the theater does indeed hold up, didn't we, Murphy?
That's
Then,
true. That's
as
true.
the full moon peeked over the horizon, we heard the howl of wolves and the cries of men. Now, we study the folly and the failures of those men, and a warning cry toward the future. Because tonight, our theme is dystopia.
I see. That's why I got ahead of you. Yeah, I see now.
About
You had a whole thing. You had a whole thing, prepared. I get it now.
Well, I had a
To
little
be fair,
lead
we
in.
get ahead of
You
ourselves
guys
often.
took over my lead in. That's fine. Act 1, Logan's Run, 1976, starring Michael York and Brian Murphy. First off, did you happen to recognize Jenny Agutter?
No, this is, I think, my first introduction to Jenny Agutter, or I'm assuming it's Gooter.
What if I told you I know for a fact that isn't true?
Okay, what would you say she was in?
What if I called her Nurse Price?
From Star Trek, really?
There's no Nurse Price in Star Trek.
No,
Wait,
Nurse
what?
Price. From this very podcast. From perhaps the very episode of this very.
She was in another movie you guys watched, presumably.
We talked about her a ton.
No, shit. Really? How did I not put that together?
Yeah, man.
What the fuck?
Yeah, man. That's what I'm wondering.
Fill me in on it. What are you talking about?
Okay,
the character we talked about the most last podcast because of her bad motivation.
Okay, so in American Werewolf in London, the female lead, Nurse Price, which I thought was sort of like the better actress of the movie, but she kind of fell apart in the end. We talked about her a bunch. I didn't even clue in that was the same woman. Oh,
as
wow.
right.
Jessica.
As-
As Jessica in
Yeah, it's
Logan's
Jessica
Run.
from Logan's Run. Yeah. That is
What
one of the
year?
same
What year was
actors.
the other movie?
So Logan's Run,
78 or
73?
I think.
And this was Logan's Run was 76.
Here,
So they're like
actually, let me
2
look
years
in
apart.
here.
Those movies.
Yeah, Logan's Run was
Logan's
76.
American Werewolf was 81.
Was,
No, so they're 5
was
years
81,
apart.
yeah. Yeah, so
81.
5 years
Okay.
apart.
5 years apart.
Wow, I did not. Fuck.
Yeah,
So
but,
she's younger in this.
gorgeous woman.
Yeah, she's-
you can't take her eyes off of her in this movie.
You see her boobs?
No,
in this
she's
movie?
stunning.
That's for sure.
Lots of. Amazingly, this movie was rated PG.
It was.
At least
It's
back
a
in the
great
day.
movie.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
spoil my. We'll get into it.
All right.
One thing,
let's refresh
Let's do a plane
ourselves.
to
I
the
guess.
listeners. You have to explain to the listeners a movie, an American Werewolf in London, a B movie. But in your rankings, you placed American Werewolf in London above The Wolfman. Explain yourself to the listeners, Murphy. I know they're gonna.
Okay, so I barely caught that because I think the connection was getting a little buffery there. But I get the gist of what you're trying to draw to the conclusion of.
Yeah, I'm like way behind, a big low.
Yeah. So basically what Davan was trying to piece together there through his internet was he pointed out that I said the Wolfman held up, but American Werewolf in London did not, even though during my review I said I liked American Werewolf in London more than Wolfman. The reason why I say Wolfman holds up more so than American Werewolf in London is because even though I was entertained by American Werewolf in London more so than the Wolfman, I feel the Wolfman holds up because of its sort of historic moment of being like generally the first werewolf film and leading into the lore of many others. American Werewolf in London just sort of fell apart, and in its story structure, I felt I wasn't totally enthralled in the movie, so because of that, it didn't hold up for me. It was entertaining, and I had more fun watching it over the Wolfman, but like the Wolfman story, I found more intriguing than American Werewolf in London.
I accept his answer. It's good.
Yeah,
we only have 3. We only got 3 dystopian
listeners
movies here.
To know.
That's what,
we
Sam.
only
That's something I wanted. It's something I was going to bring up at the end of the episode. Honorable mentions of dystopian films, and I forgot to make that list. So if I scramble, we'll I think the 3 of us can come up with a small honorable mentions to dystopian films.
And I felt a little bit limited in my pick because I had to pick pre-2000 because Davan was generous to offer me his other pick because normally when it's just the 2 of you, Davan would get 2 and Murphy would get the 1. So I've been gifted this pick tonight. I picked Gattaca, but because I was going with something that was sort of from me growing up, not something maybe that was even older than that or like from before I was born. So Gattaca was the pick, but I think I could have gone like a bunch of different movies, really.
I'll be looking forward to like dissecting your choice on Gattaca when we get to that, because I'm really intrigued by the pick that you made. I thought it was an intriguing movie, actually.
And this may be preempting your honorable mentions, but I would have I would tell Davan, I think I would like to do Truman Show. And he's like, it's not really a dystopian movie. And I was like, but it kind of is, but it's also kind of this alternate universe kind of timeline thing. It's a little bit not dystopian exactly. So, because it's so much of it is not set in the real world.
I think we can find a theme it fits into better.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something else, but that was kind of my initial gut reaction.
I do like the concept of Truman being a dystopian film, though. It's very polished, but also kind of horrific in the sense that it's captured a single human being that they're watching. So yeah, I do like that idea. That's an interesting idea. But let's
Well,
carry on to
that's-
Act 1. Davan's got
that's
an
a
introduction, I do we
perfect
believe.
Logan's
segue
Run.
into Logan's Run here.
Right.
That's perfect. Segue into Logan's Run, because Logan's Run, and I think is the kind of line, at least to Gattaca, is these are dystopias where the people who are living in them, at least the majority of those people, think it's a utopia they're living in. So these are dystopias disguised as utopia movies, at least these first couple. But yeah, so Logan's Run, the bit of the plot here.
He's breaking up.
He's running. Well, it is the year 2274. Yeah.
Should we crack open the trailer and
I'm breaking
comment
up
over it?
again.
Yeah.
Oh, you're breaking up hard. So listen, we're gonna watch the trailer real quick.
Oh yeah, open the trailer. I'm gonna get out, like
Yeah,
set my
sounds good.
stuff and come back. Yeah. So
Copy that.
you guys
Copy.
All right, so I don't know about you, but this some of these scenes were pretty wild, like the miniaturized like cities and the like set design. I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, the fun thing about this movie is that it's obviously the future is a 1970s shopping plaza.
Yeah, they filmed it mostly around Los Angeles Plaza, I believe it was filmed.
Yeah, like it's very much a product of its time. I think all these movies are products of their time in interesting ways. But yeah, this one, you can't, like the first half an hour of this movie, I'm like, what is this movie? The first time I'd seen it before, but even the second time getting back into it, I was like, oh man, Logan's Run.
The ice scene, the implosion that happened in like that ice cavern the effects of this film were very of the time. Yeah.
Like it's so much fun, but it's also ridiculous, but
it's a bit messy. I'll give it that. So many shots of that miniature city.
Yeah, I like the score with Jerry Goldsmith, and like there's so much to this movie. I think that's really interesting, but I also find it there's definitely a whole first part of I was watching it again and I was like, I don't enjoy a lot of this movie. And then like the movie gets going and then I like, oh, I do enjoy this part, especially with the guy in the guy with the cats in the Capitol.
The old man in the end with the cats,
yeah. Who I don't know if we ever he doesn't have a name, but
so to give a bit of background, because generally this is the part here where we give a quick synopsis of it, but Davan isn't here to do that part. So I'm gonna just pull this up real quick. Yeah, it's landing on my shoulders right now. So anyway, back in '76, Logan's Run was a science fiction film that was produced and directed by Michael Anderson, and it's starring Michael York and Jenny Agutter. The year is 2274. Remnants of human civilization lived within the sealed city contained beneath a cluster of geodesic domes. The utopia is run by a computer that takes care of all aspects of life, including reproduction. The citizens live a hedonistic lifestyle, but prevent overpopulation. Everyone must undergo the rite of carousel when they reach the age of 30. So basically, when they're turning 30, they gotta die, and they all have these timers on their hands that basically indicate certain age points of their life, from beginning to teenage years, and they are indicating different colors. Each person, they're what they call like life clocks. There's like crystals in their palms and stuff. So a lot of people, when they turn 30, if they don't go to the ritual of what was it called again? The carousel. For their last day, they'll most often run, and those runners are chased by Sandmen, which is the introduction of our main character, Logan 5, and his partner, Francis 7. So both of these Sandmen are chasing after runners, and they terminate them for not going through with the carousel ritual. And after doing one of these terminations, Logan 5 goes back to his quarters and goes on to the circuit to get himself some physical pleasure, which he's then introduced to our female lead, Jen Agutter. And she's basically...
She's only 6.
Yes. Well, I mean, no,
Yeah.
she's not 6. Is she? Well, she's a Jessica 6, but she's not 6, I think.
Can
she's
you hear
supposed to be in her
me now?
mid-20s. We got you now.
We can hear you.
Oh, you're like frozen. Oh boy.
Is
so
my connection
Jessica
real bad
Agutter,
still?
Yeah. So Jessica Agutter basically has a conversation with Logan about...
Yeah, there's like a lightning storm outside.
Oh, is that it? Nice.
I think it's having an effect.
I found the Q&A scene between Jessica and Logan interesting. And eventually, he then gets called into the computer, gets interrogated into figuring out the source of the sanctuary, which is believed to be where all these runners are going to. And they age him up and make him lose 4 years of his life. So he's on his last days. And through that scenario, he then looks for Jessica 6, and they proceed to band together and find their way out of the city, where they go through a very interesting ice cave after being chased by Francis 7 through the catacombs of children and
Carousel.
the carousel and all that stuff. So, to escape the carousel rituals, and through doing that, they eventually escape the city, come across an old man with the robot. I've got questions and answers about that guy.
He's more than machine. He's more than man.
He's more than machine. He's more than man. And I think
if I'm not correct, he's played that. Can you guys hear?
Sort of. If I'm not correct, that's the only black actor in the whole film. I could be wrong, but I saw an extra.
Maybe
I saw there were some extras. Okay.
What, maybe one.
Okay. Did you guys know that that actor Roscoe Lee Brown is the voice of Kingpin in the Spider-Man animated series?
I did not know that.
Really? He sounded a bit familiar, but I couldn't quite pin it.
That's a fun fact.
That is a fun fact. There's a movie morsel from Davan for you.
Have it. I like fun facts discovered by Davan.
So after Logan 5 and Jessica,
let's talk about the crystals and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I've talked about the crystals, the carousel. They're basically at this point they're at the fridge. I'm calling this area the fridge, the freezer box, where the robot just gets the protein, and then he just started boxing human beings because he's like, well, that's protein. So Logan and Jessica 6 have a SFX battle for the ages that one of the most overlaid explosion collapses of ever. They manage to escape, where Jessica 6 has the most amazing breakdown ever, where she's like, I hate outside. I can't take it anymore. I hate outside. I hate it. And he's just like holding her down, and they make their way to a grass-covered Washington. And all of the scenes in Washington, if you don't know, are painted. They're hand-painted pictures. But some of the larger, wider shots, if you look closely, you can see sort of like a cropped framing of the characters walking through doors, and they're looking at the magnificence of it all. Those are just paintings. There's just paintings, and there's little shots on the paintings. It's just perspective and all stuff.
It's like matte paintings, though, right? Is that what they call it?
Yeah, they're matte paintings. Yeah, I believe that's what they were called.
Yeah, that's like Star Trek style, right? This movie feels a lot like original series, even next gen in early seasons.
Well, it's believed to be during the same time frame of Star Trek, the TOS series, the same timeline, but not the same universe. So it's that's a fun fact there. But yeah, they make it to the city, meet an old man with cats, come back, revolutionize the city, and blows up and gets out. So that's Logan's Run in a nutshell. TLDR. It's a pretty interesting movie, so we're going to break this down. Davan, you want to take the wheel again now that you're back and got all wheels?
I'll try. Tell me if you can hear me as I go. And this old man I played by, I think his name is Peter Ustinov. He's really good in this.
Turns out 80%
he
of his
strikes you
lines
as
were
somebody
improvised.
who has been alone for 50 years. You know, you can tell he's just kind of inhabiting that character, and he's doing a really good bit. Like, I think, you know, I'm sure you just did a quick yada yada of the plot, but I'll get into a few more things. So yeah, the carousel is the craziest thing I've ever seen. I couldn't take my eyes off of it. I still
They were being microwaved.
know what
I'm just gonna put it out there.
Vaporized. I
They
know
were
that, but it's this
microwaving.
weird thing where there's like chanting and they're floating up and they're like, it's the ever like. There's weird stuff in this movie, but this whole movie I find I couldn't take my eyes off of it.
Yeah, the carousel just felt like
fast modern pace, which I find could be often too fast. But
the carousel just felt like a big microwave to me. Like, I was like, oh, these people are getting microwaved right now.
Yeah, I was saying to Murphy, Davan, that the first half an hour of this movie and like the city of like the futuristic society is like the least interesting part of this movie for me. And even like the music at the beginning, like I'm just like, I am not enjoying this too much. And it's once they get out past like the.
So you like it best? Yeah.
Huh? What's that?
So you liked it better when they escaped the Dome City?
Yes, I did. For sure. You know, and so
well,
but the
fair.
carousel in particular.
Yeah, you know, I found certain things interesting about the world. I mean, they're run by a computer, and it's just like, so you have to think of this like artificial intelligence that's just been getting deeper and deeper into its job for like 200 years. So it has no checks and balances. So like that's what's yeah, exactly, right? So like I found that kind of interesting. The whole underground and all that, and with the running and all that, that's all fine. It's certainly not new. It's something you see in a lot of things. But their guns are weird.
The guns are super weird. I
like
found the guns super weird.
At you.
Flare guns.
Like where they seemed like very inaccurate, like plasma pistols. That's just like, we're gonna point this and something's gonna blow up, and I don't know where it's going, but you don't want to be in the front.
As long as you don't get in the way.
Yeah,
even if you don't, you might get hit. They were very inconsistent. These guns. Sometimes they were right on target. Sometimes they would go around in circles, and then they would hit the floor, and then scare people, and then. It was just,
like it's like I'm pointing directly at you and it's on the ceiling, like.
And sometimes it would just kill people outright, and it was just like it was very unpredictable.
And then the cleaners for the Sandmen were like, they're just like, well, we got a dead body on the floor 30.
Concepts.
Let's just spray it over and melt the body.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, in like, you know, everyone switching their faces off, that was weird. With the doctor and the lasers. I know you like the laser.
The laser table was interesting. I thought that was probably one of the more interesting scenes.
That was good stuff.
Because he was like, I don't know. They wanted to craft a new face, and they're just like, we're just going to laser cut into your face here. And it looked like the most uncomfortable table I've ever seen. Just a slab of metal.
Yeah.
Yeah, no good. It was, I wanted him to get a new face. I was like, yeah.
Too. They just start cutting into your face.
Yeah, I wanted them to replace the actor like halfway through this movie and give him a new face.
Yeah, we got delays happening, man.
Yeah, well, I think Murphy and I can hear each other pretty well, but
yep, it's definitely on Davan's end. I think that storm is rough in his connection. If it isn't one thing, it's something else with our show. I'll tell you what.
I'm plugged in. This is as fast as she's gonna get.
Sam
tonight.
says 30 is too early to die. I concur, Sam. 30
so
is too early to die.
Yeah. He also mentioned Divergent Hunger Games.
Yeah.
The Giver.
True. They don't know any better. They're just like, yep, that's what you do.
It's true.
So that's why. Because and it is very hedonistic. They're all just about pleasure.
Well,
Having a good
yeah.
time.
So they're basically living in the city, and they all live that hedonistic lifestyle, like you can see with the circuit and stuff like that. I've got some fun facts about that. I don't know if I should get into them or not, but yeah, I don't know. I found the circuit was interesting. It was basically like 1970s version of Tinder, swipe left, slice right, and then oh, bro, there was a lot of cage themes throughout the whole thing, just through the wall designs and just set pieces. There was very bars and circles, and they were all just felt like cages and everything that was in that city. Apparently, one of the facts is that if they were wearing a certain colored uniform or dress, it was correspondent to their age.
Okay.
Yeah.
What were the ages? Do you know?
Mhm.
Or was that
It was.
Yeah.
the
Well,
ages,
red's
I
your last
believe-
one.
Yeah, red's the last bracket. Wait, did I have that written down already?
But
Think you're
Yellow
coming
was
in.
0 to
Yeah,
6.
to yada yada to the end here for a minute. The scene where Logan runs up and he's trying to tell everybody it's all a sham, and they all just sort of ignore him.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. And then eventually they get it. There's the colors there. A lot of red and greens down there.
Yeah, so the color scheme is yellow is birth to the age of 6, blue is 7 to the age of 13, red is 14 to the age of 20, red and black on last day. These are actually the original novel colors, but I think they changed them so it would be red and black at the age of 30. Yeah.
In
So
the
it's just
movie,
a couple of brackets.
green, because they go older
like
in
every
the
6
movies.
years or so you change.
Yeah, it's red and green.
In the movie, in the novel, you have to die at 21, but in the movie they changed this to 30, so they added more
Yeah.
colors. Green is 16 to 24, and red is 24 to 30. But so they
Oh
added
my
green
God.
and
21 would be a terrible idea. You
Yeah.
only get children and teenagers, basically. And no one with any sense ever gets to exist in the world. That's
right.
a terrible idea. Anyway, one scene I liked at the end, I'll throw the image up, when they all just see the old person for the first time. And he's kind of a shy, kind of awkward guy, and they all just want to look at him and touch him. That's kind of interesting.
Cracks in his face.
Yeah, gotta feel
what
those
goes wrong?
wrinkles, man. Never seen them.
So we talked about the plot and the storytelling. Do you guys like it? Do you guys think this was a cohesive plot? Good story following from beginning to end? What do you think?
I think it's a product. I think it's not my favorite movie ever, but it's okay. It's it's. I have more appreciation on the second viewing than I did even on the first, but I think overall it's a bizarre universe that they portray here, and some of the music in the beginning part of the movie almost made me want to turn the movie off. So
Yeah.
The music's not the best part, I will admit.
So for me, this was my first time actually watching the film. I had
Me too.
notions that this was going to be about Michael York's character stealing a ship and running across space and being chased by whatever entity he's being chased by. I thought that's what this film was going to be, because he had to die and they basically were going to kill him. I thought that's what it was going to be. Finding out it was just like a bunch of people hanging out low underground and living a sex cult lifestyle. I was like, okay, this is definitely not the film I thought it was going to be. It is very much a victim of its time, in the sense that like it has really interesting concepts, but it just doesn't have the budget to accurately portray the ideas it wanted to portray and the scenes it wanted to portray as well. Like, it heavily relied on a miniature of a city for like transitionary scenes. Good. That doesn't look good at all. It looks
does not
terrible.
Hold up, if you will.
No, it does not hold up, if you will.
Best.
No, and then there's
they were trying new things. 70s sci-fi can be like that.
It was, and there was that scene where like Logan and Jessica were in the like tube car, and they were like having to talk, and it was green screen, but it was poorly done. Like, you could see it like leaching into their body and shit like that, and like the edges of the window behind them, because it was like literally just shots of the miniatures that they were trying to like meld into them. So like there was that. The scene in the fridge with the robot box, when everything starts blowing up, it's just overlays of like fireworks effects and smoke effects and like really
that one
like
was
like how much shit can we put? It was so terrible. Like there was a lot of bad effects, but at the end of the movie, when they're outside, like out of these transitionary periods, and they're like taking their time with nature, and they're like showing like a plant-covered dystopian city, and they end up at the House of Congress of all places. Like that stuff was really neat, but it was just like in the tail.
And the first
end of the
old
movie.
guy they see is the Lincoln statue.
Yeah, and they're like, "Is that what wrinkles are?" Like,
what's his face? Like,
yeah,
like it's rock.
So it's a very,
but
it's a very naive movie, but you can tell it was like an LA Hollywood produced '73 film. So like, interesting concept.
I think it's,
I don't know.
I think it's actually pretty smartly done, and I think there's levels to this dystopia. Like the obvious one is they kill people when they're 30, but that's not the problem here. The problem here is they let this computer AI control them forever. And the saddest part of this movie is the fact that everything's really fine outside. Like maybe they went into this dome city due to a nuclear fallout or something, but it's been fine out there for a very long time, and they're all just chilling out in this dome when they could all just go
it's
outside
like
and start
it's
rebuilding
like Blast from the Past. It's like Blast from the Past. Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, like not only that, the earth has had a chance to heal, so everything's bountiful and plentiful again. Like it's a paradise. It's actually a paradise outside.
Oh, it seems okay.
It's hilarious. Like they're forcing a crazy dystopia on themselves. Like you don't see that in a movie a lot. Usually, a lot of these dystopian movies, they can't get away from it. It's either nuclear wasteland or robots running amok and killing everybody or whatever. Or like things like the other thing Max or whatever.
The other thing I wanted to like
this one, everything's actually just fine. Just force it on themselves.
So the one thing I wanted to touch upon was like, did they eat food? Like, I don't think I remember really noticing anyone eat food. And so it's like, did they evolve beyond eating food? That's why like their fish tanks and stuff and their surplus just like ran out because they weren't maintaining it because they didn't need to eat it anymore. And then the robot was like, oh, people are escaping. These are proteins. I'm going to box them so people can eat them. Or was he boxing people and like turning them into, protein to be fed upon, like.
You think this is Soylent Green? No, we're going to revisit. That'll be in the next one.
Well, okay. Well, here's the fact, right? Like I've got some movie morsels that touch upon this. So like, is there anything else we need to cover in this film, or are we about ready to move on?
Well,
Well,
yeah, like it's
are
not
there
really
any?
explained to us. Sorry.
Well, go ahead, Dave. No, go
Well, I was
ahead.
just saying, like, it's not really explained to us how this Logan's world came to be set up, who set it up, why these particular
No.
rules or whatever were programmed, what they, even the old man, with the cats, like we don't really understand where his parents came from. Why were they the only people left? Why did and then they died, and then he was left alone, and he hadn't seen anybody ever. So but he did talk about
Yeah.
fishing.
Like
and
there's two
food.
possibilities there. I think one is far more likely than the other. One, his parents were runners, but I don't think that's the case, because he probably would have noticed the gems and that sort of stuff in their hand. It's likely not all people, or even not even most people, got into that dome city. It was probably just the elite. It's not that big. You think of a whole world, like whether we were 7 billion, 12 billion, whatever at the time, even if there was a huge disaster, there's going to be tons of people running around there. So I'm thinking it probably was nuclear fallout or something like that, something that people could survive. Wood out there, but it would also be the sort of thing where you wouldn't, if you had this nice city under it perfectly safe, you may not be so quick to go out and see if things are fine, or just assume this is how long it takes. And they left that up to the computer, and the computer just has no interest in looking outside. It's just like, I'm designed to just run this city, and that's what I do. So I just find that funny and a really interesting story point. I think this movie has a lot of interesting sci-fi kind of.
Well, it has a lot of interesting. And it has a lot of interesting ideas that it sets up, right? It sets up a lot of interesting ideas, but they're not entirely fleshed out because they're more or less the acid high machinations of Los Angeles writers. Although, who wrote this again? It was
that's what the third movie we're doing is.
Yeah, well, that's a fever dream, and we'll talk about that in a good time.
That's an incel's favorite dream.
David Zila Goodman was from New York City. What the hell does that even mean? That's a stupid joke. That makes no correlation to the last film. We'll get into it. Save it, you rabid.
All right,
anyway, I would say the scene that probably holds up for me in this film is like the Washington D.C. stuff. Yeah, I would say that is the Washington D.C.
Yeah, I like the scene in the Congress is the best one, I'd say, and really strong. And I think the ending is good. I think that the music and everything. The movie really, like, the second hour is much more enjoyable for me than the first hour. And so I think that I think a lot of it does hold up, but it's like what it tried to do in the sci-fi and the miniatures and a lot of even the dialogue, and Farrah Fawcett for that matter, she does not hold up. She's like, oh, we don't get much of these Sandmans.
No, she was very wooden.
And then at the end, they're like, and you remember us, right? You remember us. And she's like, oh yeah, I remember you. You were there. And then after this long, boring scene, she just dies. She gets killed by the Sandman in the next moment, and you're like, why did I invest in this Farrah Fawcett at all?
So you'd say her performance wouldn't hold up?
We asked Dave what scene held up for him, and he just decided to rag on Farrah Fawcett for a minute. That was
I was like, this is what doesn't hold up. I'll tell you that much.
It's like, well, not.
Yeah, I told you which one did. I gave
for
you
me,
both
the scene. For me, the scene that holds up is like you guys mentioned, the one with stuff with the old man in the end, but also Carousel, because it's so weird and I couldn't take my eyes off of it. Like, whether that's good or bad, I don't know, but I still picture it in my head sometimes, and I'm like, what is Carousel's strange? And how normal it is to everybody, and they're all just cheering. They're like, yeah. I'm like, what is this? I don't understand what this is. It's crazy.
It's a
But
microwave.
performance,
That's what it
for me,
is.
the old man. Maybe it's a microwave. The old man's performance I would hold up, and also Gutter. She's great in everything so far. She was great in American London. She's good in this. Yeah, Jenny Gutter.
Yeah,
and Peter Ustinov.
Yeah,
I would hold up.
yeah, I would agree with those. Jenny Gooder and Peter Ustinov. Well, actually, you know what? No, actually, my favorite performance in this whole movie was Francis Seven. Honestly, Logan's partner, Francis Seven.
You like
if
Francis?
It wasn't,
Yeah.
I did like Francis. I thought he was a great actor in this film. What was his name again? I meant to like pull that up. Yeah, Francis Sevens was portrayed by Richard Jordan.
Oh, I can tell you that.
Yeah, Richard Jordan. Yeah,
Robert something.
He
I thought. Oh yeah.
No, it's Richard.
Yeah.
Richard Jordan. Yeah, so Richard Jordan, he killed it in this role. Actually,
Yeah, Richard Jordan.
If it wasn't for his sort of like menacing, like chasing after Logan, I kind of would have really fell out of this movie. In fact, his death was a bit weak, which was sad. He got beaten to death with a pole. It's like, really, that killed him? All right.
And he just keeps getting back up. He has to hit him again with the pole, and then he gets stay down, man. They're like, no, I'm gonna hit you again.
That was actually a good fight, like super entertaining fight scene. They were giving her, man. They were jumping off balconies, finding every weapon they could find.
They were breaking desks over each other. That's
Logan
a
just
fun
grabs
scene.
this little weird piece of wood, and he's just like, "I'll get you with this weird piece of wood." And then
I was like, Jessica,
Francis
get in there, help out.
Right?
It's way
And
better.
you too, old man.
Throw a cat, old man. Come on.
Come on, try something.
But I think that's an excellent segue into the other portion, the setting and aesthetics. What do you guys think about the setting and aesthetics?
Again, it mixed.
A lot of it's good in the sense that it looks weird and alien and different, but like a lot of the stuff, like you guys mentioned before, like the green screen's bad and the miniature city's not good.
Yeah,
but the overgrown city outside looked great, even if it is all paintings. Looked great.
With the 70s mall.
Yeah, definitely just a shopping mall the whole time.
Well,
like you can see like exit signs, like
for Dawn of the Dead.
Exit. It's like a few times.
Yeah, I thought it had interesting settings. I thought it had interesting set pieces. It's an aged film and they don't hold up, but their ideas and concepts do, and I would like to see them ultimately. I would like to see this potentially remade. Like I would be down for a revised Logan's Run that's got a little more meat to it,
Dumb it down into stupid, and it would be uninteresting. Like
you think that for everything. Like, you think that for every movie that comes out these days. It's possible that they could add meat to the movie and make something good, right?
I don't know. Got any movie, Russ Murphy?
Yeah, so I got some morsels for you. Here we go, Logan's Run. And it was only after 1970s. It was only after 1973 Soylent Green and Westworld found success at the box office that the producers at MGM believed that the Logan's Run book could work as a movie. Okay. During the opening credits, the music is full orchestra with some electronic instruments. For action outside the city, the music is by full orchestra with no electronic instruments. Inside the city, the orchestra consists solely of strings, piano, and electronic instruments. And some metal percussion instruments are heard in the new face segment with the metal table and the doctor.
Right,
so and in some ways, all the bad music.
Yeah, it's a really effective use of music, maybe the most ingenious use of score to make us hate the underground world that they live in, and then when you're out of the cave, you're like, oh, this is much better, even though it's only paintings. Like, it feels very fresh and real and open, and much better. And so, yeah, it's a really ingenious thing. But I hate that music at the beginning. I'm just like, get out of here.
Dude, the club music was probably the worst.
Definitely intentional.
I'll have a
But
word
it's
on that.
it's deliberate, so we gotta take
very deliberate. Logan 5 tells Jessica
or else it's
6
just
and
a
the
bunch
old
of like
man.
good 20-somethings running around in skimpy clothes.
Logan 5
like
tells Jessica 6 and the old man that he had always heard that the Dome City harnesses its electricity from the ocean. However, earlier when receiving instructions to search for sanctuary, Logan asks the Dome City's computer what is outside, to which it responds, there is no outside. So, like, the algorithm is like self-eating itself because it doesn't remember what outside is, even though it's powered by the outside.
Right.
Or it doesn't want to tell them.
Or it doesn't want to tell
also
them.
to it. Now, this is another thing. So that's like you've heard of the thing used to say. It's just like, or even like the fish bowl, the fish in the bowl analogy. Like the goldfish doesn't know that bowl. It's the same thing with the computer. Like the computer probably doesn't know there's something outside because it was never told that, because it has nothing to do with its program. It's just supposed to run the city. And I think it just, being an artificial intelligence, got smarter and smarter and cut humans out more and more. And eventually it was just running it. But yeah, it's like, it probably doesn't know.
So the love shop sequence, the big, the club scene, the love shop sequence, originally ran for about 4 minutes, but required a re-editing for the movie to be granted a PG rating. A scene with Box making a nude ice sculpture of Logan and Jessica was also cut. A scene with several characters visiting the Hallucimil shop and arcade was cut for its depiction of drug use. All of the additional footage and its background music were lost in what is now known as the Great MGM Purge, when studio owner Kurt Kerkorian sold off what he could of the studio's extensive archives and threw out the rest.
All right.
The carousel sequence.
What else was cut?
What's that? What else was cut?
Likely other with Fawcett scenes. Like there were actually worse ones, and those were the ones with Farrah Fawcett that they kept.
Oh, I bet you there probably was a lot of bad Farrah Fawcett takes, no doubt.
The ones they kept
sequence
were bad.
The carousel sequence is one of the most complex flying wire stunts ever done for a movie. A circular rig was constructed above the set, designed to rotate in sync with the revolving floor plate. Below, initially, the performers were all supported by a single winch driving the mechanism for their thin support cables. The cables became entangled during rehearsal. Each stuntman had to be untangled and brought down from the rig in a maintenance lift. The rig was redesigned so each stuntman was on his or her own separate winch, with all of the winches connected to a panic switch that cut the power in an emergency. For reversal shots, the white crystal on the arena ceiling was built on the floor of the stage, and the performers were lowered down towards it. These shots were then filmed upside down to make it appear that the performers were moving upward.
Okay. Interesting.
This is a good one.
I just assumed strings.
Yeah, it was cables, winches, and a whole lot of stage work. As this movie was made during the sexual revolution of the late 60s and 70s, slight nods to new sexual freedom can be seen. When Logan returns home just after he and Francis have killed a runner, he seeks companionship on the circuit. The first companion offered is male, and it's clearly not an accident. Logan politely smiles at the young man, shakes his head, and tries again. When Jessica arrives from the circuit and isn't immediately interested in coupling, Logan asks whether she prefers women. It was quite unusual for big studio movies at the time to depict homosexuality as a normal or even common, especially since it had been demoted as a mental disorder 3 years before.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, it was good.
And I'm going to wrap this up here. The idea of a society that... last two morsels. The idea of a society that deals with overpopulation by
Yep.
mandatory euthanasia, influenced by many other science fiction projects over the decades. For Twilight Zone in 1959, Rod Serling wrote a rejected episode called The Happy Place, describing a society in which people were executed when they turned 60. In Star Trek The Next Generation episode, Star Trek The Next Generation Half-Life, is it about a society that required people to reach resolution, mandatory suicide at age 60? Anyone who doesn't comply is considered a coward. And in What Happened to Monday, an overcrowded society only allows one child per family, forcing any subsequent sibling to go into cryosleep. However, it turns out the children are simply disposed of. And at the end of the
David
film,
Ogden Spears played that Star Trek character.
Oh, did he? At the very end of the film, an extra flash.
And he was in Majestic, which we saw. All right, let's give this one a quick yes or no, fellas. Rewatchability. Would you rewatch Logan's Run again? I'm going to say yes.
Maybe. If the mood struck me, I think I could. It would have to be.
You want to see a mall.
There'd have to be a big joint or something. But yeah, put on Logan's Run. And especially the scene where he's talking about the cats. You know, it reminded me of the movie Cats. And I feel like that's the thing that's missing. A great Cats Logan's Run mashup.
Yeah, it just needs a big musical ending. It probably would have been better than the Flaming Wreck ending that they had, because it just didn't seem like they could choose what shot they wanted to end the film on. So they had a bunch of cross-bleeding shots, and then they just ended with a bunch of credit shots too. So they just had no idea how they wanted to end this film.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't have their like ta-da, but it was like they could have ended it so many different ways. And
no, the movie doesn't hold up in my opinion. Not at all.
No, it's close, but it's no for me.
Well, I'm gonna save it into the B movie status because I think it does movie actually. It's probably of all the movies we've watched on this show so far, top 3. No. If there's a disagreement, it's a B movie. If we all hate it, it's a C movie.
Okay.
If,
so
we all like
split decision. I got you.
That's our. Yeah, split decision. I saved it with a split decision. Yep.
Hung jury.
Act 2.